Assalamu alaikum. These words simply mean peace be unto you in the Arabic language. We will begin our event with prayer as we in the Nation of Islam begin all of our meetings to ask God's blessing on everything that we say. Now, attention prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, surely I've turned myself to thee, O Allah, striving to be upright to him who originated the heavens and the earth, and I am not of the polytheists. Surely my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, and my death are all for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. No associate has he, and this am I commanded, and I am of those who submit. O Allah art the King. There is no God but thee. Thou art my Lord, and I am thy servant. I have been greatly unjust to myself, and I confess my faults. So grant me protection against all of my faults, for none grants protection against faults but thee. And guide me into the best of morals, for none can guide me to the best of morals but thee. And turn away from me the evil and indecent morals, for none can turn away from me the evil and indecent morals but thee. O Allah, bless Muhammad and the true followers of Muhammad, as thou did bless Abraham and the true followers of Abraham, for surely thou art praised, worthy, and magnified. And O Allah, make Muhammad successful, and make the true followers of Muhammad successful, as thou did make Abraham and the true followers of Abraham successful, for surely thou art praiseworthy and magnified. Ameen.
Ameen. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his servant and messenger. We greet you in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. And welcome, sisters, to the MGT&GCC presents to you, I Deny, Divine Essence in You. Now, our beautiful topic today that I'm so excited to jump into is Before You Say I Do, the journey of single womanhood before marriage. Now, disclaimer, this event is a part 1, so we will not cover all of the information in this event because the journey of single womanhood before marriage includes so much and goes so deep. So please expect another event. I am Sister Naya out of Chicago. I am 20 years old, and these are my beautiful sisters of the ID9 team.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sister Amir Muhammad. I am 24 years young from Waxahachie Study Group in the Southwest region.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Anora Muhammad. I'm 24 years old, and I am coming out of headquarters, Chicago, Illinois.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sister Medina. I'm 19 years old from Chicago, Illinois, and I'm so excited to be here with you all today.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sister Sabbath Muhammad out of Atlanta, Georgia, in the Southern region. I'm 24 years of age, and as always, I'm thankful to be of service.
And now let us receive our 2 very special guests, Sister Terry Muhammad and Sister Nanika Muhammad. Now, Sister Terry, she's a beautiful sister. She's spiritual, intelligent, and is a wise sister. She's the beautiful wife of Student Minister Nuri Muhammad out of Mosque number 74. And inshallah, this July, they'll be celebrating 29 years of marriage. Praise be to Allah. Sister Terry has served as the MGT orientation and processing instructress for the past 26 years. She's an auditor in the Nation of Islam. She's the former student director of MUI and has served as a volunteer instructress at the Indianapolis-based Corbin Place for 3 years, which is a housing facility for abused women and children. Sister Terry currently oversees the Heal and Hustle Foundation Incorporation, which she and her husband established in honor of their daughter, Kahara Muhammad, may Allah be pleased. Brother Nuri and Sister Terry have been blessed to assist in over 40 suicide preventions, continuing on their daughter's initiative of mindful wellness and healing. Sister Terry, through her example of the embodiment of this truth, has touched many lives and has positively impacted many women and children in the community with poise and grace. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Terry, and thank you so very much for agreeing to be our special guest today.
Wa alaikum salam. All praises are due to Allah. Thank you. I am truly honored to be a guest on this beautiful platform with my beautiful sisters. You know, as I was thinking about tonight's program and the topics of discussion on chastity and courtship, I could not help but to think about Mary, the mother of Jesus. And what came to mind is if Mary were physically among us, she would have absolutely loved to be a part of a program such as this, riling up women and girls, sharing her knowledge and her wisdom and personal experiences on the great benefits and rewards of keeping chaste. The I Deny team's mission statement represents everything that she was. Having said that, I know that I don't speak for myself when I say this, but I am so proud of you all for the work that you all are doing. Not only are you all striving for righteousness, modesty, and virtue, but you all are promoting righteousness, modesty, and virtue. And that deserves acknowledgement, encouragement, and support. So thank you again. I am honored to be here.
Praise be to Allah.
All praises due to Allah. It's such an honor to have you.
Thank you so much, Sister Terry. And our intro for our second special guest, who just so happens to be the newest official member of the I Deny team. Please welcome Sister Nanika Muhammad. She is a wife who, inshallah, will be married 25 years this year, and a mother. She assists the Student National MGT captain of the Nation of Islam, Sister Naima Muhammad, by helping to coordinate the Muslim girls training and general civilization class. She has a passion to help empower every woman and girl through the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, to realize and embrace who we are as the divine feminine expression of God Almighty. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you, Sister Nanika, for joining us this evening.
Wa alaikum salam, Sister Sabbath, and I am just so honored to be a part of this wonderful event among beautiful and powerful women of God.
All praises due to Allah. And it's an honor to have you both, Sister Nanika and Sister Terry. And I also want to thank our beloved Sister Kim, who will be interpreting this entire event. And thank you to our deaf and hard of hearing sisters for joining us today.
All praise is due to Allah. Now, sisters, with the title of our event being Before You Say I Do, what better way to open up the conversation than by talking about a core part of that preparation process, which is chastity. Chastity, as we have defined many times before, is being abstinent and refraining from participating in premarital sexual intercourse and intercourse outside of marriage. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said in the lecture, The Sacredness of the Female, quote, "That which is sacred must be safe and not violated. Women all over the earth, due to an improper view of self, have violated themselves and allowed men and society to violate them. I repeat, we must revere the womb that bore us. Since the womb of our mother is sacred, then this teaches us that the womb of every female is also sacred.
That's right.
It is from her womb that all the scientists, prophets, sages, messengers, kings, rulers, and gods have come."
That's right.
Yes, that's right, Sister Medina. And I love that quote, especially when the minister mentions the sacredness of our wombs and the importance of having a proper view of ourselves. Because if we don't have that proper view of ourselves, we won't be able to respect or love ourselves properly. And eventually that'll lead us to accepting mistreatment from others. So having that proper view of ourselves, and not just anyone's view, but God's view, is very important.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so with this in mind, why is chastity important? I have found in my personal life that chastity is important because it serves as a protection for my mind and my soul.
That's right. Talk about it, Medina.
And as we've discussed in prior events, many women all across the world are either currently experiencing or in the past have experienced gross disappointment, trial, or trauma as it relates to our relationship with our self-worth. In my early adolescent years, middle school, and even some parts of high school, I found myself really caring about what the boys in my school had to think about me. I might have tried a situationship here and there. I wanted to feel validated, but at most was met with a lot of disappointment and heartbreak. At that time, you're convinced that the one who makes little glares at you or sends you a cute text message is worthy of you. But to be honest, from those experiences, the most I gained from them was low self-perception and lessons on things I should never do again. Being the kind of person that I am, very emotionally in tune, I accepted early on that the best thing for me was to steer clear from those kinds of distractions because they only do a number on my spirit. One, I wasn't even sure of myself enough to be seeking any person to add into my life. And two, I was only preparing myself for fleeting happiness. As much as I knew I wasn't ready for marriage commitment at 14 or 15, I don't know about y'all. I knew for sure that those brothers weren't either. And they definitely weren't interested in anything but the physical, because at that age, that's pretty much the most enticing. When you're a young teenage girl, you're basically searching for people to call you cute, maybe even compliment your figure, because that's also the age you're the most insecure. But if only I knew at that time how much more gratifying it is to find that love for yourself from learning about yourself rather than in those brothers. If only we knew, we'd understand that why even at that age, we should hold ourselves to higher standards. For me, after those few missed trials, it was the only option to protect my heart for the future.
Tell me about it.
Me
And
too.
the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the love and respect that both he and the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan pour into the woman is what continued to inspire me to exercise in my self-worth. Our praise is due to Allah. As we stated in many events before, the minister has said that we are so worthy and that brothers would elevate themselves and their minds if it wasn't so easy to get us. He said that it should be a stone wall. Now for me, that wall used to be made with transparent vinyl, then clay, but the more I began to see the value in keeping myself protected, it became more like stone. And this is not to shame. All of us are on a very similar journey. A lot of us lack the necessary self-love, and this is why we find it harder and harder to see the value in protecting ourselves. But once you know how much you're worth, real talk, once you know how much you're worth, you'll see how that changes how you know you need to operate.
And you are absolutely right, Medina. And that reminds me of a tweet from the minister when she said, quote, "If you don't know yourself, you can't love yourself. And with self-knowledge comes self-love. And with self-love comes self-determination and self-respect," end quote. And I could be a witness to that. I know for a fact that I did not love myself until I took the time to actually study not only myself, but also my nature. And I'm telling you, once you get the proper knowledge of self, you won't even look at yourself the same. You will walk differently, talk differently. And if you actually act on this knowledge, the people around you will really be able to bear witness to that change in you.
Come on.
Right, Anura. And many people see chastity as just not having sex outside of marriage, which is definitely a big part of it, but it's also much deeper than that.
Absolutely.
Physical abstinence is just the beginning of chastity. Why? Because the physical gift of a womb that God gave you to procreate and build nations is not the only place of value in you. What we do with our mind is just as important, if not more important, than what we do with our body, because the womb of the mind is what produces our reality. The womb of the mind can either lead us to our self-progression or to our self-destruction. So because of this, when striving to be chaste, we have to protect our minds from the realities that we live and redirect our thinking to the current callings that Allah God is guiding us towards. The more we engage in righteous thought, the more we will be able to see what that calling is for each of us as individuals. We don't want to seek fleeting pleasures and then live our lives in regret and hurt because we know we could have made wiser decisions.
Right.
In order to get to the womb of the woman, a man must first be able to get into the mind of the woman. And a man who cannot get a hold of the beauty of your mind and weave his way into your thoughts is a man that has no access to your body.
Come on.
Medina always has a way with her words. Praise be to Allah.
I know, Sister Medina, you made some excellent points. And that just, in listening to you, it just makes me even more grateful and thank Allah God so much for blessing us with these teachings. Because when we learn and understand the great weight and importance of who we are and the key role that we play in God's mission, it makes it so much easier for us to want to keep chaste. Because the sole purpose for keeping chaste is not just for a man necessarily, it is for God and ourselves. Keeping chaste until Allah blesses us with a husband shows Allah that we love and value this body, this precious body He gave us. Because He didn't create us for us to be carrying ourselves so loosely, allowing any man to have us. God created us to help Him, to create reflections of Himself, little gods. And that's
Mm.
why I am absolutely not ashamed or embarrassed to say that I am a virgin. In
Come
fact,
on.
I am so happy and
That's
proud to be standing strong in a world that is constantly promoting having sex before marriage. I'm proud to be committed to loving God and myself by keeping chaste until Allah sends me that one man, my husband.
Praise be to Allah. You know what, Amira, thank you for being bold enough for even saying that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, and guess what? I'm a proud virgin too.
Praise
Right.
be to
Praise
Allah.
be to Allah. You know, we should all be proud for choosing chastity.
That's
The
right.
Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said in a Breakfast Club interview, quote, "I want a woman to think hard about the man she chooses to give herself to, because you are too precious to give yourself away to somebody that ain't fit to be in a bed with you. Have no thought of responsibility. He just wants pleasure, and after the pleasure is taken, you're like a piece of toilet paper. He throws you away and finds somebody else. You
Wow.
deserve better, and you should demand better than that from any man. And when you give yourself to that man, that's pro-choice. I choose to lay down with this man because I love him. He's shown himself to me to be worthy of what I have to give him," end quote.
Mm.
Now, those are some very beautiful words, but I know in a lot of sisters' heads, we say, that's not my man. He wouldn't do that. He said he liked me. He said he loved me, you know, situationships and boyfriends. He told me he would marry me, and no man has ever said that's me before. So why wouldn't I have sex with him? But why don't we put the man to the test?
Put him to the
The
test.
one that we want to be with for the rest of our lives in marriage, why don't we make him wait to have all of us?
Come on.
I really think that he's going to leave because in a world that is so sex forward, promoting the idea that men who abstain are coward or weak, we can't understand how a man can deny the world and himself for the woman he says that he wants.
Mm.
If a man refuses to be patient until he has made the commitment to have you in a marriage, is that the man that you want? The protection and decision of chastity exposes the character of both yourself and the men that pursue you. You can't
Right.
control what a man decides to do, but you can control how much you are willing to accept. The more you rise above the biological needs and explore the root things you need for your spirituality, which feeds all that you can and will be for your future, sex will leave the forefront of your mind and you'll be focused on how you can better you as Allah enriches you and I out of his grace.
That's right.
What she said. Wow.
Well, you know-
Chastity exposes character. And the minister actually said in the How to Give Birth to a God, part 4, he said, quote, "And it was the virtue of the women and girls that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad felt was more valuable than increased knowledge at the expense of your chastity. Because virtue and chastity builds character in a woman." And the quote goes on. But I shared that to say that chastity builds character because it takes a great strength and discipline to hold your sexual passions, which lends itself to other areas of your life.
That's
It's
right.
natural, you know, just
Mhm.
like the way that hunger is. So it takes a great strength to resist the temptation of the natural urges of the flesh.
Mm.
But one must have a tremendous internal fortitude or courage to stand with the minority of people who choose to be chaste. And we could channel that energy toward productivity and all that we set out to achieve. I find myself coming out on top in all that I do because working to maintain my chastity also frees me from the distractions that stem from responding improperly due to my lower nature, which could get me caught up. But
Yeah.
I can say that I have the freedom to put my full mind on whatever I desire to accomplish. And Amira and Anura said this earlier, but I also want to say that I am 20 years old and I am also a proud virgin.
You know,
Allah.
Yeah.
Yes, Naya. Honestly, I agree. Being chaste definitely strengthens your character. And to everyone watching and listening, I know some of us are probably thinking, oh my gosh, what can we implement in our lives right now to protect our chastity, especially being in a world that is encouraging and teaching us to do the exact opposite? Well, in the Bible, Jesus said he was in the world, but not of the world. So
Right.
we too can be living in a world where having sex before marriage is the order of the day or a normal thing to do. And yet we stand strong in our decision to keep chaste until marriage. For those who may not know, being chaste is to be one who is abstinent and refrains from participating in premarital sexual intercourse and intercourse outside of marriage. And Sister Medina or anyone listening, I'm not sure if you heard this statistic before, but according to Statista, Research Department in 2022, quote, around 69% of respondents in the United States believed premarital sexual intercourse to be morally acceptable. On the other hand, around 28% believed it to be morally wrong.
Wow.
Wow, Amira. You know, that is such an interesting statistic. This current world is really made to expose us at all times to things that distract us and make us weak-minded.
Right. I know that's crazy, Medina. And with that being said, I want to share a few practical things we can do right now to help protect ourselves and keep chaste. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said during the We Are at War Savior's Day 2023 Youth Summit, quote, if you want righteousness, you must feed on the word of righteousness. You must feed the word of righteousness into your thought process, and it will translate into your actions, end quote. Now, I'm sure everyone knows that social media is a very powerful tool.
Yes, and if I may interject, I'd say media in general, whether that's a TV show, music, movies, video games, and even books, are all very powerful sources of influence, especially in 2023.
No, right, Anor, seriously, social media completely changed the game in the way we interact with people, and in this case, particularly brothers or men. We went from knowing only a limited number of brothers, depending on where we live, to now being able to see, communicate with, and send direct messages literally to any brother from different parts of the world. And honestly, we don't even need to have brothers' numbers anymore because we can call, text, direct message, FaceTime any brother we want right now through social media. But despite everything I just mentioned, even though we can't control what other people do, the beautiful thing is that God blessed us with the ability to control ourselves. So we could go on social media and analyze our page and see if we're representing ourselves in a way that God will be pleased. How are we presenting ourselves to the world? What are we sharing and posting on social media? How are we interacting with brothers? And are we messaging brothers? If so, why? And what are we talking about?
That's right, Amira. And those are some excellent questions that we need to be asking ourselves. And I hope everybody is taking notes.
I know, right, Anora? And if we want to protect our chastity, we shouldn't carry ourselves so loosely by direct messaging and conversing with brothers on social media, because that puts us in a position to tempt ourselves, and that will lead us to eventually lowering our self-respect and decency. We should also be mindful of the type of conversations we choose to entertain and the type of music we listen to. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said during the We Are at War Savior's Day 2023 Youth Summit, quote, the energy of the word of God is what will keep you from Satan's grasp, end quote.
Yes, and I was actually, blessed to be seated in the first row when the minister shared that quote, Amira, and I vividly remember writing that down in my notes, so it was a very moving moment. But you shared some very excellent advice, but I have a question. What are we supposed to do in our free time before we're married? Like, are we supposed to just sit around and wait on a man to come along? What are we supposed to do?
Right, Anura, I was literally thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad you guys asked that, because that's really a great question. We should use our time falling completely in love with ourselves and the nature in which God created us as women. Because it is through falling in love with God that we'll begin to understand the great importance and weight of who we are and what Allah intends to make of us. Now, I know I get it. It may be hard sometimes, but instead of thinking or talking about the brother we are interested in, we should instead focus on becoming the woman God wants us to be by feeding ourselves more, feeding ourselves the best of food, physically and mentally now. We should be exercising, working on those areas we know we need to improve on. And we should use our time being committed to being ourselves and cultivating our gifts and talents given to us from God. And the beauty of that is when we work on becoming the woman God intends for us to be, we will attract the man God intends for us to have.
Go ahead.
Facts.
Absolutely. Listen, praise be to Allah, Sister Mary. I can only bear witness as a living testimony, praise be to Allah, because that time alone with just me working on my relationship with Allah was so necessary to prepare me for my marriage now, my current marriage, praise be to Allah. I think about the first God, right? In triple darkness. you know, when you think about the fact that he had to scientifically
Right.
be alone
Mm.
before he could bring out of himself what was very deep and ultimately needed for the whole of humanity.
Right.
And what we need, and we need that alone time just the same to work on our relationship with God to bring out what's needed to prepare for a mate. So when I was single, my focus was my marriage with Allah first and foremost, point, period, end, right? And then, as student minister Ava said, my husband came in the form of a well-made man. So the Holy Quran in Surah 19, verse 17 says, so she screened herself from them. Then we sent to her our spirit, and it appeared to her as a well-made man. So praise be to Allah. I've been happily married for almost 3 years now. So that's my testimony.
Praise be to Allah.
All praises due to Allah. Sister Sabbath, hearing you say that, it reminded me of a tweet that the minister did. And he said, quote, what you do is limited by why you do it. The purer the motive, the greater the energy that will lead you to greater success, end quote. So our motive, it's important that our motive for improving ourselves is for God and ourselves, and not solely because we want to attract a man. Otherwise, we'll just attract and possibly settle for anyone, and we will not be successful.
Talk about that settling piece, Amira.
Don't settle.
You know what happens when we fall in love with self and God as women? We desire to keep chaste. And when we make the deliberate decision to keep chaste, we are literally acting in accord with God's law.
Right.
And what is God's law? No fornication. And fornication is sexual intercourse between two people who are not married. Even in the Bible, Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 3 states, for this is the will of God, your sanctification, that is, that you abstain from sexual immorality, end quote. And for anyone who heard the words sanctification and sexual immorality and your mind went blank, sanctification is simply the process of being set apart or made a pure vessel in which houses the Spirit of God. And sexual immorality simply means performing any sexual expression outside of the confines of marriage. So remaining chaste before marriage actually aids you in becoming a vessel to be used by God. And if you think about that, that's so heavy.
Right.
And get this, unlike dating, the courtship process actually helps us to guard and maintain our chastity.
That's right.
This is what I believe our dear sister Naya is about to touch on for us.
Yes, Honora, let's talk about courtship, because let me tell you, it is so beneficial. So courtship is a process that we follow in the Nation of Islam from the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad to assist us with choosing the right man. Now, nobody likes to get their heart broken from a relationship, but in a courtship, your heart shouldn't necessarily be getting broken.
That's right.
Courtship spares us an unnecessary amount of wasted time. Why be a wife to a man when he hasn't even put a ring on my finger yet? If he's interested in me like he says he is, if he loves me like he says he does, then he could put a ring on my finger first.
That's right.
The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the only heaven for a man is found in a woman, and no man deserves us in this heaven if he can't prove that he's worthy. And Minister Farrakhan teaches that a man has got to be worthy of you, or else he's not worth having you.
Come on.
Yep, that's right, Naya. And courtship is all about learning more to see if this person is compatible with you. It's not dating. Y'all are engaged, let alone married. But of course, some feelings might get involved. But overall, courtship saves you from the heartbreak of dating and getting married to the wrong one.
That's true. Very true. And sisters, the minister actually told me this at the farm in 2019 when I was working there. He said, follow the courtship process. He said, do not have sex before marriage. Now, this was entirely a conversation that I was not planning on having. And although the minister looked me in my eyes while he was saying this to me, very passionately, might I add, he also said that this wasn't just a message for me, but for everyone, including the group of workers I was with. Now, I don't know Minister Farrakhan to be a liar in what he says.
That's
I
right.
know him to be a man of God.
That's
So if
Mhm.
he told me to do it, which he actually did directly to my face, then I made a vow to follow the courtship process properly and not let any man try to weasel his way into an improper relationship with me. And in the
Mhm.
meantime, I'm going to deny myself,
Come on.
pick up my cross, and follow Jesus until Allah deems it time for a proper courtship and a ring. And that was also the day that the name Naya the Denier was born.
Wow. Naya the Naya. That's kind of cute. That's kind of cute. But really, if Jesus told you to do that, then I too. Wait until Allah says it's time. And as a matter of fact, let's talk about the benefits of courtship. So we'll know what we are getting ourselves into, or really what we're keeping ourselves out of.
Yes, Sonora. So courtship is to find your soulmate, the one Allah blessed us with, the yang to my yin, you know? Who wouldn't want to live the rest of their life with their soulmate and best friend?
That's
Now, Sister Emeritus Aisha taught us in our second event that a man's DNA stays inside a woman for up to 2 or 3 years.
Mhm.
His DNA enters us through our vaginal canal and stays in our reproductive system, staying in the vicinity of our future babies.
Mhm.
Especially if it was a one-night thing or we aren't even together anymore. No, thank you. I'm good on that. I'm gonna pass on that.
Please
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that sounds kind of terrible, Naya. But did you all know that we raise the standard of the world by how we conduct ourselves as women?
come on.
We can't live without a woman. Remember that. There's no more men without women. They literally came from us. So if I tell him no, and that he has to approach me in the most proper way presented by God, then if he is in fact the right one, then he won't have a choice but to approach me as a woman of God,
Yes.
Right.
meaning that our relationship will begin on a pure and more spiritual level, and inshallah, stay that way.
Yes. And in addition to that, the minister also said at the farm in 2019 that your mother will be there to help you through the courtship process. So courtship gets family involved. And if your family cares about you, then they care about your relationship and will help you choose the right one. They want someone for you that's equally yoked, making money, has a steady income, and can take care of you. And with all those minds together, it makes it so much easier to make the decision if this man could be your future husband or not. And we will cover some more benefits as we talk about courtship and what it is. And I pray that we all start to see the beauty in a process that helps you mine out the diamond that God placed in all the coal just for you. But this leads us to our next question. What exactly is courtship?
Yes, Naya. You know, it's about time that one of us asked this question. But the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan actually answers it in this article called The Sacredness of the Female. And, you know, I tried to summarize it, but, you know, the minister, of course, said it better than I ever could. So I'm just going to read it for you. Is that all right with you all?
Yes, ma'am. Let's hear it.
Okay. It reads, quote, "Among the righteous, courtship is chaperoned. This is done to keep the parties who are attracted to each other from entering into premarital sex, which then stops the process of courtship. And the word courtship is the word court. By definition, we mean a place where justice is administered and a place where the process of finding the truth, which forms the basis of justice and judgment. When two people are courting, they are bringing evidence to either support their intention to be engaged or evidence that they should look in other directions. This process of finding out as much as we can about each other is necessary in forming good and proper judgment. The individuals are the jury that must render a decision, and the individuals must become the judges that ultimately make the decision that he or she is the right one for me. Cross-examination is a part of court procedure, which allows direct testimony to be challenged to see if the persons are telling the truth.
Yes.
For it is only truth that will permit us to make good judgment. The more truth we know about each other, our characteristics, ways, strengths, and weaknesses, it is the more right we can be in making a decision if we should become engaged to be married or not, end quote.
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, y'all, we have to take him to court.
Come
Okay.
on.
Put him on the witness stand. Hear his testimony and do that cross-examination, because it works both ways, and
That's-
weigh all the evidence with the testimony. And he must do the same with us.
Right.
So when I enter courtship with my husband, he was under investigation.
Right.
From
He should.
period in.
Good.
Okay. Emotions did not matter. Now, my husband is and was very attractive to my eyes. But if I want y'all to listen to this. If I only based my findings on his surface level and not dug deep enough to see who he was and is as a person, and if this person is the best match, I would have made a mistake. I don't think y'all caught that. A mistake. I would have allowed myself to potentially take a miss. And if he wasn't for me, I would have wasted his time and mine. And I know that if I would have went outside the Islamic law, y'all listen, this is my testimony. I know for a fact if I would have went outside our Islamic law, I really wouldn't have as good of a marriage as I've had in just these almost 3 years. Praise be to God. I have to bear witness. Y'all, honestly, we see far too many young marriages only to end in divorces.
Right.
I have to say it, the real of 2023, right? And if we don't see marriages, we see Facebook statuses that say in a relationship, only for that post to be deleted later. If we don't see marriages, we definitely see pregnancies and the lack of stable homes. That's not a good mix. So listen, we have to change the grain of what it means to have and build a strong family.
Right.
And I know that we want them, but are we willing to sacrifice our low desires to achieve them?
Right.
Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us, quote, that we are, I want y'all to listen, we, not anybody else, are the sum total of the decisions that we make. Bad decisions lead to the destruction of the life force.
Wow.
Good decisions lead to the fulfillment of the aim of life, that word fulfillment. Most marriages are made on the basis of sex, and therefore, when the sex drive diminishes, it's gone, there is nothing of substance to hold the marriage together, because it was made from a physical rather than a spiritual desire.
Wow, that's right. And on that note, Anora, could you help me just list a few things to note about courtship?
Sure. I mean, I believe that's why most of you all are with us today, right? Now, first, if a brother is interested in a sister who is of age, he does not approach her directly. He talks to her father, or he can go through his student captain. Remember that, sisters. Father, student captain, nothing else.
Definitely. And in courtship, we do not share inappropriate photos, meaning that we don't take or share photos that expose parts of our body, nor do we allow anyone to share inappropriate photos of themselves.
Yeah. And nobody, well, no, let me say this. Anybody can tap into literally anything these days. So please do not take inappropriate pictures of yourselves.
Peace,
Please.
Lord.
But to add to the list, you can attend a social event together. However, it has to be in an appropriate setting with chaperoned supervision.
Chaperoned supervision.
Yes.
And all courtship outings together are chaperoned. And this is to help keep those urges in check and direct the focus to truly getting to know each other on a higher mental and spiritual level. Courtship doesn't include premarital sex. It doesn't include hugging, doesn't include holding hands, no physical touch at all, not even sexual conversation. It includes nothing that would tarnish the purity of the interactions, because y'all aren't even married yet. Y'all aren't together yet. You're only in the process of figuring out if you're compatible and could work out together.
Right.
Frankly speaking, I don't need to hold somebody's hand or kiss them to know if I'm compatible with them.
Come on.
Compatibility has nothing to do with physical touch. And
That's right.
technically speaking, physically, we are compatible with many people on this earth,
Mhm.
but it is the mind, spirit, and soul that needs to be compatible with our future husbands.
Come on.
That's right. And I actually have the perfect quote to add to that point. Now, the minister said during a meeting, quote, "Courtship has no sex involved. You aren't kissing her. I got to sample your lips. For what? I want to see your hips. For what? You're petting and squeezing and trying to look for some place to get off. That isn't courtship. Courtship is serious because marriage with God is a serious thing. You got to know that you are making the right decision. You, brother, a right decision with her, and she, a right decision with you. How are you going to make a right decision and you don't ask the right questions?" End
Right.
quote. It's an excellent question.
Very excellent question. Well, the minister said, in addition to that, you have got to ask the right questions. You don't deserve a good man if you're not courageous enough to ask the right questions. You don't
Absolutely.
deserve a good woman if you are not courageous enough to ask the right questions, end quote. So, question for Sister Terry and Sister Nanika, please help us all out, because we are ready to hear from some seasoned sisters who've been there, done that, and can school us on what we should look for and the kind of questions that we need to ask during courtship.
All praise is due to Allah. Yes, this is critical because this is the person we are planning to live the rest of our life with. That
Right.
one who should be aiding us in our journey into oneness with Allah. Your teammate, your best friend, that one we will make serious life choices with. The one will be the father of our children. That
Right.
one who will be going through good times and bad times with, the ups and downs of life. So you definitely want to make sure you are choosing the right one.
Right.
Allah God says in the Holy Quran in Surah 4, verse 1, "O people, keep your duty to your Lord who created you from a single being and created its mate of the same kind." In a lecture titled, "What is Your Role?" the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan supports this beautiful verse saying, how can you expect a man to be dutiful to you if he is not dutiful to his Lord?
Mm.
That part.
Duty and obligation to God first and foremost. So sisters, this should become the first crucial sign of compatibility we are looking for. Rule number one, we don't want a man that doesn't even recognize the God, our creator, the one who has created us both. So that's a deal breaker.
Right.
Number two, this is advice to young sisters. You want to find your purpose and then a mate. We want to know ourselves and what we want before we look for a mate.
Right.
This will determine if he is a good fit for us. We will not be able to recognize if he is compatible and a good fit for us if we don't know who we are and what we want out of life.
Yes.
In choosing the right one, we want to make sure we are understanding how the science of courtship process works between two people choosing the right one. Courtship is an intentional process wherein two people come together and make a conscious decision to engage in discovery to determine if they share compatibility in crucial areas. We want to put emphasis on that. Sharing compatibility in crucial areas. It is a time to gather as much evidence and facts about the one we are courting. Leave no stone unturned in searching him out.
Come on.
You must find out who he is.
Right.
This is not the time to throw out or dismiss evidence that you have gathered in the courtroom.
No, ma'am.
Mistake happens far too often. Dismissing evidence, AKA red flags, make irrational decisions in
Absolutely.
mate selection, which leads to an unhappy marriage or
Yes.
divorce. It is natural and normal to want a companion But oftentimes, this intense need for companionship ends up overriding our logic and reason.
Mm.
What are some of the crucial areas we want to look for to determine if we share compatibility with our courtmate? Here are some, just to name a few. His duty and obligation to Allah God.
Mm.
What's his goals in life, spiritually, physically, and financially?
Mm.
Is he intelligent and knowledgeable in skills and world affairs? Does he have a job? What is his
Right.
monthly income? Does
Mhm.
he have his own place? Has
Right.
he ever been married? Does he have children? If so, how many? Does he want children? If he has children, what is his relationship with them?
Mm.
How is his physical health? How was he raised? Is he clean? Is he hardworking, or is he lazy? Does he have any sexual transmitted diseases? Now, at this point, we do want to say in the courtship process, anything that is said between those two people are totally confidential. It's only
Right.
between those two people.
Right.
If he has an ex-wife, be sure to talk to her. Does he have a temper, or is he patient? How does he interact and treat his family and other people? Is he your faith and your flavor?
Right.
You want him to have your faith and your favor.
Mm.
Most importantly, he must have your faith, but you want him to enjoy, or you want him to enjoy many of the same things you like. You
Right.
also should share some of the same interests in life. In other words, you want a best friend and not just a partner. This
Right.
makes for a better fit and compatibility.
Right.
The
Mm.
list could go on and on. Again, leave no stone unturned.
Yes, ma'am.
So be good to make a list of the 10 things that make up the ideal man you are looking for. So when we're courting, we can see how this man matches up with the 10 things we are looking for. Do not share your list with him. This is only for you.
Right.
We can use the Lord's Prayer as a guide in looking for a good man. The more he matches up to an ideal list, the greater the compatibility. You are not going to find a 10 out of 10. You're not going to find perfection in a man. However, if he matches with most of what you list, then it becomes workable.
True.
Mm.
Okay, Sister Terry, now you are giving us exactly what we need to consider before entering courtship. I do say so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Facts.
All praises are due to Allah. So the courtship process becomes a godly mathematical equation that can help us find our mate. But we must be found using the formula that has been given to us.
Yes.
Proper courtship curbs all enthusiasm, irrational thoughts, emotions, and lust, and allows us to only deal with the facts. Remember, we want to make a sane, sound, sober, and godly decision. The
Absolutely.
Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said in What Is Your Role? Don't get married for ungodly reasons. The motive for us coming together can determine how long our marriage is going to last. An ill motive won't last. Remember, wisdom is known by the choices that we make. There is a verse in the Holy Quran in Surah 24, verse 32. And marry those among you who are fit.
Yes.
Terry, I have a quick question. What does it mean to be fit? I guess I need a better understanding of this as it pertains to selecting a mate.
Right.
I would like to give an example, if I may. Sisters, have you ever been shopping and you see a really cute outfit that you like on the rack?
Yes. All the
The
time.
style, the color, it initially is everything you like. The first thing you do is look to see if it's your size. And if that's your size, you really get excited. Then you take it into the fitting room and you try it on. But when you look in the mirror, it does not fit you like you thought it would. Maybe it's the style, the way it's cut. It could be the way that the fabric lays on you. Maybe you don't like the color once it's on you. All you know is it looked better on the rack than it did when you tried it on.
Come on.
It does not compliment you. So what do? Do you purchase it anyway and force it to fit the way you want it to fit?
No, ma'am.
My sisters, if it doesn't fit, it's okay. That's not the one for you. You have to say, you know what? This outfit is not for me, and it would probably look better on someone else. Don't try to force a square into a circle. It will not work. It will not be a fit for you. It does not complement or complete you, and that is okay. So Allah says in the Holy Quran in Surah 24:32, and marry those among you who are single and those who are fit. In the 33rd and 34th verse, he says, and let those who cannot find a mate keep chaste until Allah makes them free from want out of his grace. So we want to choose the mate that God has for us, not what we think we want.
Right.
If he can't help evolve you, then you shouldn't get involved. All right, come on now, Sister Nanika.
Say it again. Yes.
Woo! Yes, ma'am, Sister Terry, you are teaching. And what you shared makes it clear that courtship is a fact-finding mission.
Right.
You're on a mission to find out if he's the right one or if he is not. And Sister Terry, when you said, don't throw out the evidence submitted in court, Lord, I wish I could have reached over there and gave you a high five or fist bump, because this is exactly what we're taught. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan urged us in the Keys to a Successful Family Life to quote, make sure when you get ready to say that you want to marry, that you have explored all of the things as much as possible, end quote. And we can tell after I've been married almost 25 years, and Sister Terry, you've been married almost 29 years, that in finding the right one for you, those red flags are golden, okay? They're like the Willy Wonka golden ticket, okay? And all of us have red flags. All of us do. So if you haven't found any, either you haven't courted long enough, asked the right questions, or unfortunately, you just might be in denial.
Right.
But actively seek out those red flags and get excited every time you find one, because now you're making progress toward getting what you need to know. You want to get all the tea on that brother, okay?
Come on.
Carefully examine each of those red flags and ask yourself the question, can I live with this for the rest of my life?
Come on.
Because there's no guarantee that either of you are going to change.
Right.
That is so true, Sister
That's
Nanika.
real.
I'm over here taking notes, okay? Now, I do have a question though, Sister Nanika.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
if you come across a red flag and you ask yourself if you can live with this for the rest of your life? And the answer is no.
Okay, Sister Naya, go. If the answer is no, I cannot live with this, then he is not the one for you. So you cannot be scared to end the courtship if you realize the answer to that question for you is no. If you learn he's not the one, or you learn that you're simply not ready, all praise is due to Allah. The courtship was still successful because it served its purpose. And if you learn that he is the one, all praise is due to Allah for that too.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, praise be to Allah. I'm glad you shared that, because I know that I used to think that if you were courting, that must mean that you were only like 3 months away from walking down the aisle and getting married. But if the courtship didn't end up in marriage, I could see how someone would, feel embarrassed, or as if they may have wasted their time. So I really appreciate you saying that. Helps.
Praise be to Allah. And I totally can understand the, feeling of embarrassment or thinking that you've wasted your time. But the key is understanding that a successful courtship does not necessarily end in marriage. A successful courtship is one that provides you with what you need to know to arrive at the best choice.
Right.
So in the lecture, The Divine Value of Women, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan tells us straight and plain, quote, if you're not strong enough as a woman to question a man, then you'll get from the court what you deserve. Some of you feel that you'll lose a man if you question him too tight, and you won't lose a man, you'll lose a dog.
Mm.
And you weren't looking for a dog. And the man should take this same approach, end quote. Now, look, can I get a witness? Now, Sister Terry, you've been married nearly 29 years now. And I have to keep saying that because that's a big deal, especially in 2023, okay? Now, when you met your husband, was he not too eager to respond to any question that you had?
Oh, yes, ma'am. He was on a serious mission to lock me in, so no question would run him away.
Come on. And I bear witness to the same. In courtship, you don't owe him anything but the truth. And he doesn't owe you anything but the truth. So we must do as the Holy Quran tells us in chapter 17 and verse 80, where it says, and say, my Lord, make me enter a truthful entering, and make me go forth a truthful going forth, and grant me from thy presence an authority to help me. And you know, in that truthful going forth, it just may be that once you've weighed the evidence, you might need to make a truthful exit.
That's right.
All good. And to the degree that we are willing to stand in the mirror of truth is to the degree that you can be truthful with others and seek and embrace the truth to ask those right questions when seeking a mate and make a decision rooted in truth and not feelings. Because at the end of the day, we're not marrying feelings.
That's right.
It's until death do us part. Not until I don't feel like it anymore. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And this is why sex cannot be a part of courtship and should only be reserved for marriage. But unfortunately, Satan has normalized premarital sex. Sister Amira, what was that statistic that you shared earlier?
Yes, ma'am, Sister Nanika. It was from the Statista Research Department, and it said, quote, in 2022, around 69% of respondents in the United States believed premarital sex to be morally acceptable. On the other hand, around 28% believed it to be morally wrong. And you know, Sister Nanika, when I hear statistics, pardon me, like that, it's not too shocking to me. Because like you were mentioning about Satan, and also in the Bible, Revelation, it talks about how Satan deceived the whole world. So I do not expect anything less than the world encouraging things contrary to God's law, which is why I'm so grateful to Allah God for blessing us with these teachings, because it not only equips us with the knowledge and understanding of who we are, but it transforms and renews our minds in the way of God. And it really empowers us to take control of our lives and be accountable. And most importantly, the teachings arms us with the solutions to everything we may encounter in life. And if we're striving to live, do, and apply these teachings, we'll be so spiritually high that the wickedness and filth of this world will not even bother us, because we are focused and committed to being ourselves and doing what's right.
That's right.
Yes, Sister Amira, you better go ahead and preach. You know I love you. We love y'all talking like this. We really do. And what you shared is so critical, because this world has driven humanity away from the intended purpose for the sex act. I mean, at this point, we are light years away from it. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us, quote, among the righteous, those of high moral values, premarital sex is forbidden. In this world, premarital sex is the order of the day. And anyone who forbids premarital sex is looked at as archaic, old-fashioned, and not thinking in the best interest of the individuals. However, the minister goes on to say 50% of all marriages in America end up in divorce. Therefore, we need to take a careful look at the approach to marriage and weigh it by the standard given to us by Allah God, the best knower, through his revelation of the scriptures that are among every people, end quote. So, I mean, this really makes it plain that we really need to study and examine what the purpose of sex actually is as ordained by God. So this leads us to our next question. Now, Sister Terry, we love to hear your thoughts on this because, and we really, it's serious business. This is serious business.
It is.
We hope that you will take your time and break it down because this is crucial. So what is the purpose for sex in marriage?
I so appreciate this question. You know why? I and we never knew that there was a purpose for sex other than procreation of human life.
Come on.
I am so thankful to Allah for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for his divine guidance and wisdom in teaching us what we knew not.
Yes.
A demonstration of true love that gives us the solution to all the problems we have suffered from in America. Being victims of slavery and being forced to have sex with men we did not know in order to breed, producing children for our slave master, where there was no love or commitment between the male and the female. And as we see, this is prevalent today. So we must be educated in the divinity of sex so that we may look at it as God looks at it, which will allow us to bring our mind up into his way and not thinking on a low level.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Okay. Look, Sis Terry, I know you blew some minds with that one. You said we need to be educated in the divinity of sex, the divinity of it. And that reminds me when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said to us, we don't think about God in the bedroom, but he's the author of what takes place in the bedroom. So we need to include him in our thoughts about it. So how does God look at sex?
There is a wonderful article by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. What is the purpose of sex in marriage? His answer: the process of marriage allows for the lawful sexual union between male and female in the eyes of Allah God and society, since both male and female should dedicate their lives to the will of Allah God and the great journey of the meeting with Allah God and the great struggle in the union of the two, then the pleasure derived from sex is divinely given to enhance the union as well as recharge the electrical energy of the male and the female that they might continue the great journey and struggle of life. These two, properly motivated, allows the sexual union to be given life experience, not only in procreation and continuance of the life of the species, but it is invigorating as well as life-giving to the marriage and struggle of these two becoming as one. That is heavy.
Yes.
I recommend we all read that on our own time so that we have a greater respect and appreciation for the institution of marriage and the divine purpose of sex in marriage.
Yes, ma'am, Sister Terry, I agree. And that is so heavy. I mean, that just makes you all the more fall in love with these teachings. And it reminds me of How to Give Birth to a God, part 3. The minister teaches us, quote, when you love him like that, and let me explain, he's talking about real love between a man and a woman that have entered into marriage properly. And this is not talking about like a one-night stand or a fling or something like that. But he says, quote, when you love him like that, the act of sex is the culmination of that love. You see, her body laying prone, looking to heaven, and the man's looking to earth. Very heavy.
Yes.
Her head with his head, her chest to his chest. See, life then, the spiritual love and the electrical energy produced by that love creates a force field that energizes both parties and revives the mind. Good God Almighty. When this act is done without love, without devotion, without commitment, it degenerates both the woman and the man. It's worthy to save yourself for that wonderful person at the right time, end quote. Good God Almighty. It's creating a force field.
Wow. Such powerful words from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Allah teaches us in the Holy Quran that the woman is the natural consoler of the man. It is in her nature to want to provide peace and quiet of mind. However, it should only be natural when done in the divine order of things, as the minister has explained to us.
Yes.
Allah also says in the Quran, Holy Quran, that men are the maintainers of women. Men are to be our maintainers, our protectors, and our providers. So when a man is led by God and being a maintainer, protector, and a provider, that is when he is worthy of our consolation. So we should not give ourselves over to a man that is not our husband. And I do have to add, boys, to my young sisters, don't give yourself over to a boy. How is he worthy of consolation? Friend and girlfriend are not even in the language of God. So this tells us that we shouldn't be giving ourselves over to them, though there may be form of physical attraction. I also need to say this also includes oral sex. It is an unclean act, and we have picked up from being around Caucasian. This is not a godly act at all.
No, ma'am.
We have been taught a principle that good manners protect good morals. Allah tells us in the Holy Quran in Surah 17:32, and go not nigh fornication. Surely it is an obscenity and evil is the way. Why not go nigh near fornication? Due to the fact that there is a natural attraction from male to female, the law of nature can in most cases override God's written law. So by not going near it, we don't run the risk of committing the wrong. But to go even further, it also helps to refrain from the thought. So we are not tempting ourselves. The way that Satan gains control over us is he tempts us into sinful ways through the eyes, ears, and mouth. We must close him out by what we watch, what we listen to, and the foods that we eat.
Yes, ma'am.
Else does Allah tell us not to go near fornication? He says, because it is an obscenity, meaning indecent, and evil is the way. How does fornication lead to evil? Our nature, the voice within, God's voice, tells us not to do a thing when we are committing a wrong. We have been taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that when we ignore God's voice, we are killing the messenger of God within us. The more we ignore that voice, the quieter the messenger of God gets within us. Did you know when immorality is committed over a period of time, the conscious mind becomes callous and hard, producing the feeling of guilt? The numbing of the conscious destroys the pure, godly spirit in us, leaving us consciously free to partake in all manners of evil. This is how nations are ruined. This is why it is so important to follow God's command. He is the all-wise, the all-knowing. Did you know, as females, when we give ourselves over to men who are not our husbands, we help to make them weak?
Mm.
It's not in their nature to receive a reward of consolation from a female they have not committed themselves to and working to maintain, protect, and provide for.
Absolutely.
Where in life have you ever known to get a reward for something that you did not earn?
Come on, come on. This is so true. Because if we are the standard, if we as women and girls are the standard, but we have no standards or very low standards, then
Right.
this has set up the condition that he no longer has to work to have the benefit of the pleasure of a woman. And this
Right.
is why we are taught that where there are no decent women, there are no decent men. For the woman is the mother of civilization. Now, the standards that we set for ourselves determine whether we mother a high civilization or whether we mother a low civilization. And we have to think about some of these terms that we've been fed when we talk about relationships in particular, where there's this thought that there's a double standard. It's no double standard. We are the standard. The woman is literally the standard, by which a civilization is measured. So if you want things to be right, we got to get right. And
Absolutely.
to why the standard of God, as found in his word, must be the standard by which we govern our lives, particularly as women.
That's right. Both the Bible and Holy Quran are books filled with stories of guidance that keep us from making painful mistakes. Example, there is a story in the Bible in Proverbs 31 of a queen who is a mother giving advice to her son, Lemuel, where he is young, who will grow up to be a king. She says, "My son, son of my womb, what should I advise you, my son? Vows of dedication to God." Look at what she advises her son. "Give not your strength to loose women, nor your ways to those which ruin and destroy kings." She goes on to say, "It is not for kings to drink wine or for rulers to desire strong drink." So the advice and the wisdom here that we want to focus on is that she said, do not give your strength to loose women. Why? Because it weakens them. Lemuel's mother was a godly, spiritual woman who was able to bring birth to a great, righteous king.
Woo! See, this again is speaking to the power of our womb when we guard it properly and put the right thoughts in the womb of our mind. So what you're showing us here is that a woman of righteousness has the power to give birth to a great human being of righteousness. And the Honorable, it ties right in to these words from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He said, now think about, when people say getting turned on, right? He said, "Sister, you got a fire. Sister, turning you on is the most sacred function of a man. Turning her on properly. If the woman is turned on properly, there is a natural love that springs forth from her that is absolutely and vitally necessary to the proper preparation of a mental giant." He goes on to say, the woman has the ability, an impressive ability. She has the ability to actually impress on the mind, like the mind is a blank piece of paper. She can write on the brain while the brain is forming. So he admonishes us, brother, it's dangerous to play with a woman. It is dangerous to mess over a woman. It is dangerous, sister, to you yourself, for you not to know how valuable you are. And he continues, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, no nation can rise any higher than its woman. And you must keep alert, woman, and observe everything with insight or hearing that will damage your mind, because your mind is the laboratory that produces the new world. In quote, all praises to Allah. The word of God is just so full.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
it is, Sister Nanika. Lastly, I would like to share an example and a story of a true power couple. This is a perfect example of a couple using God's righteous formula in mate selection and how they were able to produce the prophet John.
All right, come on now, Sister Terry. See, look, y'all, we got righteous formulas, y'all. Go ahead and break down that righteous formula for us, Sister Terry.
In the Holy Quran, in Surah 21, verse 89 through 91, it reads, and Zacharias, when he cried out to his Lord, my Lord, leave me not alone. Thou art the best of inheritors. So we responded to him and gave him John and made his wife fit for him. Surely they used to vie with one another in good deeds and called upon us, hoping and fearing, and they were humbled before us. And she who guarded her chastity. So we breathed into her our inspiration and made her a son, a sign for the nation. What's the formula in this verse? Both Zacharias and his wife were praying believers. When Zacharias, he cried out to Allah, Allah answered his prayers. Zacharias also chose the right mate. Allah made her fit for him as a wife and fit to give birth to the kind of child that they were looking for. A great believer and helper in God, a prophet. And they called on Allah during the hard trials. The verse also says they used to vie with one another in good deeds, which means they were striving to outdo one another in their righteousness, competing in righteousness, which helps to grow and bring out the God in one another. This was a couple that was working in accord with the will of Allah God, a perfect description of what the minister provided from the article, The Purpose of Sex in Marriage. And what we want to raise in this verse is that Zacharias' wife guarded her chastity and waited until Allah blessed her with a mate out of his grace.
All praises due to Allah, Sister Terry, for those powerful words. And, you know, when you're talking about Zacharias' wife and you lifted the other instances where these are women of God who guarded their chastity, I am so moved by your words as a mother of a daughter who is now grown. And it definitely warms my heart to see all of the sisters that are taking up the mission of I Deny. I certainly wish I had something like this when I was coming up, because Lord knows I needed it. But I thank Allah for all of the wombs that bore you, because raising daughters to be chaste in this world can be a very daunting task. And we work so hard to encourage our girls of their value so they will naturally be inclined to guard and protect their virtue. Sister Medina, you spoke to this earlier. What was that quote from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan about the impact of having an improper view of self?
Yes, ma'am. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, women all over the earth, due to an improper view of self, have violated themselves and allowed men and society to violate them.
Yes, that is it. And as a mother of a daughter, I came to realize that in order to instill in her the proper view of herself, I first had to gain the proper view of myself. And those of you who are not mothers yet, or you don't have daughters yet, you got a head start. To the degree that they see us striving to live according to the standard of God as their very first teacher and example, is to the degree that it becomes real to them. And I could have never even begun to attempt this without what Allah has given us in the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad as taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. But because of them, we have the knowledge to make our daughters to know how special and powerful they really are as women and girls that Allah chose to embody the standard for his civilization. He came and chose us,
Yes.
as
Yes.
his helpmeet in establishing his kingdom. He chose our wombs through which he produces himself to make a new people and a new world. And as we are being reformed and remade, he is making all things new through us. Heaven is at our feet if we understand who we are. And as women and girls, with the proper view of ourselves, we literally have the power to change our condition overnight if we determine to live according to the standard of God. The standard of God becomes the way of life through us as the mothers of civilization. With this proper view of self, our girls grow into women who carry an atmosphere that burns up foolishness so that men without a proper and pure intention will have absolutely no place among us. Did you hear what I said?
Yes, ma'am.
No place among us.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught us that a man must earn the right to a woman. Through our stand on righteousness, we will force conformity and effectively produce a world so that only those men who mean business will have a place. And all praise is due to Allah.
That's
I
right.
just want to say a special note for all the mothers. You know, we said some beautiful things about our value, which is absolutely true, powerful. But even with all of this wonderful and powerful teaching, as Sister Terry said earlier, we got to, understand that law of nature. We have to stand guard and never understand the forces of nature that are ever present and real in our daughters. And don't say it's not really mine. Don't say it's not really yours. It's real in them all.
That's right.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us, quote, mothers, fathers, keep watch. Your ever-present vigil will restrain the passion because it's very difficult to get fired up with mom and dad looking.
That's right.
He said, mom and dad's presence kills passion. Just a quick turn on the light will turn out dark thoughts. Oh, mama, I didn't know you were there. End quote. And I'm so very thankful to Allah for all of the mothers. I cannot say enough for all of the mothers of this beautiful group of sisters and the wonderful job that they did with giving what you needed to be a part of this powerful I Deny movement. And I'm so thankful for sisters like you, Sister Terry, who are wonderful examples for all of us and are willing to share your wisdom after having been married for 29 years.
All praises due to Allah, and the feeling is most certainly mutual. Having provided this beautiful wisdom, we pray that our young girls and women are up for the moral and worthy challenge of keeping chaste. And we can see that it definitely renders immeasurable benefits and results.
Yes,
Absolutely. Definitely does. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sister Nanika and Sister Terry. You all have honestly been so motivating and inspiring. Thank you again. And I know it's come too soon, but it's about that time for us to start wrapping up. I pray that each of us has taken something beneficial away from today's events because some real knowledge bombs were dropped. And I really pray that we could take a look into the beauty of chastity as it is our protection. It is the will of God. And I pray that we could take a look at the courtship process because it really ensures that we don't settle for less than what we deserve. And no matter what you may have experienced, no matter what has happened to you in the past, no matter what choices you've made in the past. Remember, God said he makes all things new. He has the ability to renew us, purify us, redeem us, but that only comes with a decision from us to do better. And last thing, it's never too late to be chaste.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. And sisters, you don't have to go home, even though I'm pretty sure you all are already home. You can stay here. But before you leave, we have a few goodies for you. Now on the screen are some resources that you can screenshot or take a photo of. They are resources that have been helpful to our team, and we hope that they may also be beneficial to you. To learn more about preparation for courtship, the courtship process, and understand its importance, please screenshot, and they will also be posted on our social media page.
Yes, and if you could please take a few seconds to fill this out to help us improve and better serve you. The link will be dropped in the chat, and it was also in our bio on social media.
Yes, and also be sure to follow ID9 on social media at Divine Essence in You. Displayed on the screen are the names of our social media accounts. Our social media outlets are also being put in the chat as I speak.
Yes, ma'am. And on behalf of the MGT&GCC, we thank Allah and his student, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, for raising the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to be in our midst today. Because if it wasn't for him at this point in time, we wouldn't have all the knowledge that we have now to improve our lives.
That's right.
Praise be to Allah.
Absolutely. And we can never thank Allah enough for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and Mother Khadijah Farrakhan for their unconditional love and many, many sacrifices that they made for our nation and continue to make today. And thank you to our sister National MGT Captain, Sister
Yes.
Naima Muhammad, for all that you do for the MGT and GCC and for the Nation of Islam.
That's right.
Yes, yes. And thank you, Sister Terry and Sister Nanika, so much for agreeing to be our special guest this evening. And last but not least, thank you so very much to our tech team, always helping to ensure that our event runs smoothly. Sister Hakia, Sister Chandra, Sister LaShawn, Sister Kalila, and Sister Naja, we appreciate your beautiful souls, and may Allah continue to bless you all.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you again to our amazing interpreter, Sister Kim Muhammad. If our audience would like to show their appreciation for the ASL interpreting, you may donate through Cash App using #$ access my ASL, and you can reach Sister Kim for questions about classes or interpreting at info4access@gmail.com.
Yes, and thank you all for tuning in.
Now, if all hearts and minds are clear, we can all please take the position of prayer most comfortable to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Attention prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. Thee do we serve, and thy aid do we seek for help. O Allah, guide us on the right path, the path of those upon whom thou hast bestowed favor, not the path upon whom thy wrath has been brought down, nor those who go astray. Ameen.
Ameen.
We're going to take us a brief screenshot. Give us 3 seconds on the count of 3. 3, 2, 1.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you all for joining.